Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are opening a file that I think it keeps a significant portion of our audience awake at night.
Oh, for sure.
We're talking about a very specific and very maddening paradox in parenting and education.
Yeah.
It's the paradox of capability versus performance.
It's the classic, I know he can do it, so why is he refusing?
Yeah.
Problem.
Exactly. We got a listener submission that it paints this picture so vividly. We're looking at a profile of a child, let's say 6, maybe 7 years old.
Right, that key age.
Cognitively, this kid is all there. I mean, he can count, he can write letters, he can draw these incredibly intricate, amazing diagrams when he's in his element.
Hyperfocus.
Totally. But you put him in a standard classroom context, circle time, group singing, a structured worksheet that isn't about his one specific interest, and this wall just goes up.
Total brake check.
Yeah.
The shutters come down.
Complete refusal. Or just disengagement. And the listener's frustration, which I think is so universal, is that it looks like a choice. It looks like you are choosing to be difficult.
Yeah.
Because I literally saw you focus for 3 hours on your Legos yesterday, but you won't focus for 3 minutes on this math sheet.
It feels personal. It really does. And because it feels like a choice, our instinct as adults, as parents and teachers, is to treat it like a discipline problem.
Right.
We think, okay, if he can do it but won't, then I just need to make him want to. And that, that usually means rewards or consequences.
The carrots and sticks.
The old standbys. But the stack of research we have today, and it is a deep stack. I mean, we're pulling from meta-analyses on self-determination theory all the way to curricula like Unstuck and On Target. It all suggests that if we treat this as a behavioral choice, we are fundamentally missing the mechanics of what's happening in that child's brain.
So it's not a won't problem.
We aren't dealing with a won't. We are dealing with a very complex can't that just happens to disguise itself as a won't.
Okay, so that's our mission today then, to really dig into that claim. We want to see if we can shift the goalposts from, compliance.
Just getting it done.
Right, just getting the kid to do the thing so we can all move on to autonomy.
Which is the internal engine. That's the real goal.
Right.
It's the difference between pushing a car down the street and actually turning the ignition on.
And we have some heavy hitters in the source material to get us there. You mentioned a massive systematic review from Wang and Company published just this year, 2024.
Yeah, on self-determination theory. It's a landmark.
We've also got the Unstuck and On Target curriculum, which is practically a Bible for executive function. Then there are clinical perspectives on something called behavioral momentum and insights from the ADHD Advantage 2.0 framework.
So it's a mix. It's high-level neuroscience meets what do I do on Tuesday morning when my kid is melting down over a worksheet.
Perfect. Before we jump into the tactics, though, I want to push on this idea you brought up of the broken child.
Yep.
You said we aren't fixing a broken child. But if a kid can't function in a typical classroom, I mean, something feels broken, doesn't it? Whether it's the child or the system.
That's a fair question. The friction is absolutely real, but let's try to reframe broken to mismatched. The Ferrari brain analogy from the ADHD Advantage source is, I think, the best tool for this.
Okay, lay it out for me.
So imagine this child has a Ferrari engine for a brain. It's a high-performance machine. It's designed for incredible speed, for intensity, for these deep dives.
That's the hyper-focus on the special interests.
Exactly. When that car is on a racetrack doing what it was built for, it performs better than any minivan out there. It's breathtaking.
But schools aren't racetracks.
No, schools are stop-and-go city traffic. Circle time is idling at a long red light. Worksheets are parallel parking.
Yeah.
And this Ferrari, this amazing engine, has 2 major mechanical quirks.
Okay.
First, it has undersized brakes. That's the inhibition control. It's very, very hard for this brain to stop a thought or an impulse once it's already moving.
Right.
And second, and this is absolutely crucial for our listeners' problem, it has a really tricky ignition switch. It takes a massive amount of spark, a huge jolt of energy, just to get the engine to turn over for certain tasks. A neurotypical brain, let's call it a reliable family sedan, it can start up with a tiny little spark. The teacher said, sit down. Okay, click, I'm sitting.
The engine just turns on.
The Ferrari needs a jump start.
So when the child is refusing to start the worksheet, it's not that they are sitting there thinking, I defy you, teacher. It's more like they're turning the key in the ignition and the engine is just, it's not catching.
Precisely. The dopamine spark, the neurochemical signal required to initiate a non-preferred, boring task just isn't there. It's not being generated. So when we yell or threaten or offer a sticker, we're essentially just banging on the hood of the car, expecting it to start.
It's not an ignition problem.
It doesn't address the ignition problem at all.
Okay, that brings us perfectly to the science of that ignition. We need to talk about this Wang et al. Study from 2024. You flag this as a really big deal in our pre-show notes.
It is a big deal. Because in educational psychology, we often see studies with small sample sizes or results they're statistically significant, but in the real world, the effect is barely noticeable.
Right.
This was a meta-analysis. They combined the results of 36 different studies with nearly 12,000 participants.
Wow. Okay, so a huge sample.
Huge. And they were looking at one thing, self-determination theory, or SDT, in education.
Can you define STT for us really quickly?
Sure. It's probably the leading theory on human motivation today. It basically posits that there's a spectrum of motivation. On the far left, you have amotivation.
Being no motivation.
No intent to act at all. You're just inert.
Yeah.
Then right next to it, you have external regulation. This is doing something purely to get a reward or to avoid a punishment.
The sticker chart zone.
The sticker chart zone, exactly. And the data shows time and time again that while external regulation can produce some short-term compliance, it's incredibly fragile.
Why is that?
Because the second you take the reward away, the behavior stops. And for neurodivergent kids, it often backfires. It increases anxiety because it adds this layer of pressure and evaluation to an already difficult task.
Okay, so if that's the low quality end of the spectrum, what's the goal? Where are we trying to get to?
We want to move all the way across the spectrum toward internalization and ultimately intrinsic motivation, where you do the thing because the thing itself is satisfying.
And the study showed how to do that.
This is the amazing part. The study found that interventions that support a child's 3 basic psychological needs had an effect size. They call it a G-value of 1.14 on autonomy.
Okay, stop there. I'm not a statistician.
Yeah.
You have to contextualize 1.14 for me. Is that good?
It's almost unheard of. In this field, an effect size of 0.4 is considered worth doing. An effect size of 0 is considered large. A 1.14 is massive.
Wow.
It's the difference between a ripple and a tsunami. It strongly suggests that supporting these psychological needs isn't just a nice to have, it is the primary driver of whether these kids engage or not.
So what are the needs? What is the fuel for this Ferrari?
3 things, and we need to remember them: autonomy, competence, and relatedness.
Okay, let's break those down, because autonomy, I gotta say, it sounds a little scary to a parent who is already struggling with a kid who won't listen. It sounds like letting them do whatever they want.
That is the #1 misconception. Autonomy in SDT isn't permissiveness. It's not anarchy. It is the internal feeling of volition.
Volition.
It's the sense that I am the origin of my actions. I am not a puppet. You can have autonomy within a very strict structure if you feel you have some agency in how you navigate that structure.
So it's the difference between you have to do this worksheet right now versus, okay, we have to get this worksheet done before lunch, but you can choose which pen you use to do it.
That is a perfect example. It's all about minimizing the sense of being controlled or coerced. The research shows that neurodivergent brains are often, let's say, allergic to being controlled. The moment they feel coerced, the brain downshifts into a defensive threat response state.
Which, I'm guessing, torpedoes the other 2 needs, competence and relatedness.
Completely. Competence is that feeling of, I can actually do this. But if the ignition switch is sticky and the task feels impossible, your sense of competence plummets.
Right.
And relatedness is just feeling connected to and safe with the person asking you to do the task. If I don't feel safe with you, if I feel like you're judging me or angry with me, my brain will not let me learn from you. The drawbridge goes up.
I want to tie this back to the biology one more time before we hit the actual strategies. The outline mentions something called optimal stimulation theory. How does that explain the child who can draw for hours but can't sit still for circle time?
This is the Goldilocks principle of brain arousal. A neurotypical brain has a baseline arousal level that's kind of pretty close to the middle. It's in the just right zone. So sitting and listening to a teacher is, maybe a little boring, but it's manageable.
Okay.
A brain with ADHD or autism, however, often has a baseline that is much lower. It's chronically understimulated.
Wait, that sounds counterintuitive. Because these kids often seem hyperactive.
Right. But the hyperactivity is actually the brain's desperate attempt to wake itself up. It's self-stimulating.
So the wiggling, the fidgeting, the making noises, that's an attempt to get more stimulation into the system, not less.
Yes. For these brains, boring tasks like repetitive counting or just passively listening are not just boring, they can be physically painful. It's a physiological state of underarousal that can feel like deep anxiety or agitation. The brain is literally screaming, I am shutting down, I need input now.
So when a teacher says sit still and listen, what they are actually unintentionally asking that child to do is to enter a state of physiological distress.
Exactly. And the refusal we see, the zoning out, the acting out, that's the child's brain trying to protect them from that distress. They retreat into their own world, or they create a ruckus, because either of those things provides the dopamine hit they need to stay regulated and awake.
That is a massive reframe. I mean, it completely changes he's being a brat to he's trying to regulate his own brain.
It changes everything.
Okay, so we have the theory. The Ferrari is understimulated, it's sensitive to control, and it has a bad starter. How do we fix it? Let's start with that first psychological need, autonomy. How do we operationalize that massive 1.14 in effect size on a Tuesday morning?
We start with something called instructional choice. And I need to be really clear here. This isn't about negotiating the what. The curriculum is the curriculum. This is about offering choices within the how.
Okay, give me the menu. What kind of choices are we serving?
We can categorize them into 4 main buckets. The first and easiest to implement is within task choice.
Meaning?
Do you want to use a sparkly gel pen or a graphite pencil? Do you want to sit on the blue wobble stool or the red chair? Do you want to write on the paper or on a small whiteboard?
I have to play devil's advocate here for a second.
Yeah.
Does the color of the pen really matter? I mean, it feels a little trivial.
It feels trivial to us because our dopamine system isn't hanging on by a thread. But for a child who feels controlled and overwhelmed, that tiny, tiny slice of agency, I chose the sparkly pen, it gives them a sense of ownership over the task. It flips the switch from, you're making me write, to, I am writing with my pen. It's a dopamine microdose that can be just enough to turn the key in the ignition.
Okay, I'll buy that. That makes sense. What's the next bucket?
Sequence choice. This one's really powerful. Okay, on our schedule, we have 3 things to do. Math, then reading, then a snack. What order should we do them in?
Letting them control the flow.
Right. It teaches self-regulation. Maybe the child knows they have a lot of energy right now, so they want to tackle the hardest thing, math first. Or maybe they know they need to ramp up with something easier, so they choose reading.
I do that as an adult. I'll clear out all my easy emails first thing in the morning just to get the ball rolling.
You are self-regulating your cognitive energy. We want to teach them that skill explicitly. So we have within task choice, sequence choice. Then you have location choice.
Desk, floor, beanbag chair.
Under the table, standing at a high desk. As long as they're safe and not disturbing others, doesn't matter. The goal is engagement, not posture.
Right.
And finally, the 4th one, which is a huge one for the listener's profile. Output mode choice.
Output mode. So this means changing how they show what they know.
Exactly. The listener says the child is cognitively capable but refuses tasks like writing. Well, what if the writing is the actual barrier, not the thinking? If the task is write the answer to 2 + 2, and the child has dysgraphia, or just fine motor fatigue, the pencil is the enemy, not the math.
So the choice becomes, do you want to write the answer, or do you want to whisper the answer to me and I'll write it down for you?
Or do you want to build the answer with Legos? Or can you type the answer on the iPad? Or how about you draw the answer? If the goal is to assess their understanding of addition, don't let the physical act of writing be the gatekeeper.
This makes so much sense. I want to push on a scenario, though. Let's say I'm the parent. I offer a great choice. Hey, do you want the blue pen or the red pen? And the kid just looks at me and says, I don't want to do it at all. No pens. Total refusal. What then?
That absolutely happens. That's when the illusion of choice, as some people call it, collapses. When that happens, it's often a sign that we're dealing with a deeper underlying issue, possibly a profile known as pathological demand avoidance, or PDA.
And what does that mean?
It's a profile we sometimes see in autism where a direct demand, even a polite one, even a choice, triggers a nervous system threat response. The amygdala fires. It's instantaneous fight, flight, or freeze. The demand itself feels like a threat to their autonomy.
So how on earth do you phrase a request without it being a demand? That seems linguistically impossible.
It's tricky, but it's doable. We have to shift our language style from imperative language to declarative language.
Okay, define those.
Imperative language is a command. Put on your coat, pick up the pen. It requires a direct response or action. Declarative language is simply sharing information or making an observation. It's an invitation.
Give me an example. Instead, put on your coat.
You'd say, wow, I noticed it looks really cold outside today. Or, your coat is on the hook.
You're just stating facts.
I'm just stating facts. I'm leaving space for the child's brain to process the information and initiate the action themselves. It doesn't trigger that same, you're trying to control me alarm bell. Another great tactic for this from the Autism Little Learner source is to use melody.
You mean singing?
Sending the instruction. Instead of the command, time to put on our coats, you sing, this is the way we put on our coats, put on our coats.
Why does singing work? Is it just a distraction?
It's not just distraction, it's neurological. Music is processed in a different part of the brain than direct language processing. A spoken command hits the logic and compliance center, which might be on high alert. A song, on the other hand, hits the rhythm and pattern center. It sort of bypasses the don't boss me around filter.
It feels like a shared activity, not a top-down order.
Exactly. It changes the whole social dynamic.
That is fascinating. So if you're hitting a wall, try singing the instruction. You might look a little silly, but if it starts the Ferrari.
Whatever it takes to turn the key.
Okay, let's pivot now to the special interest. The listener mentioned their kid has this obsessive engagement in their interests. Historically, schools have viewed this as the enemy, right? Put the dinosaur away, we're doing history class.
Which is deeply ironic, of course, because dinosaurs are history.
Touché. But the prevailing view has always been that the interest is a distraction from the real learning.
And the research in our stack, specifically from sources like the Connected Alliance and Dream Big, says we need to flip that 180 degrees. We have to stop seeing these intense interests as distractions and start seeing them as instructional bridges.
There was a story in the notes about a boy named Spencer and an elevator. I think this illustrates the point perfectly. Can you tell us that one?
It's a classic case study. Spencer was 4 years old, autistic, and absolutely obsessed with elevators. He watched YouTube videos of elevators, he drew elevators, he wanted to talk about the different brands of elevators. The school, with good intentions, tried to ban it. No elevator talk during circle time. We don't draw elevators during art.
And the result of that was?
Total misery, meltdowns, complete disengagement. Because for Spencer, elevators weren't just a hobby, they were his language. They were the filing system he used to organize the entire world. Taking them away was like taking away his ability to think.
So how did they fix it?
They had an aha moment. They stopped fighting the current and started swimming with it. They realized, wait a minute, elevators have numbers on the buttons, so they started doing math with floor numbers. Elevators go up and down. That's a lesson on spatial awareness and opposites. They started writing stories about a boy who takes a magical elevator.
They smuggled the curriculum inside the elevator.
He did. And suddenly, Spencer is the star student. He's engaged, he's learning, he's happy, because his sense of competence is sky high in that domain. He feels so confident talking about elevators that he's willing to take risks with the math or the writing if it's connected to his passion.
I think the big fear for parents and teachers is that if we allow this, they'll never learn about anything else. You know, if I let him write about Minecraft today, he'll only ever want to write about Minecraft for the rest of his life.
That is the fear. But the data shows the opposite is true. Using these interests creates what psychologists call a flow state. It builds and reinforces the neural pathways for engagement and learning. Once the child trusts that learning can feel good, that it can feel like that flow state, they become much more willing to branch out. But you have to establish the flow first. You have to build the bridge.
So for our listener, if their kid refuses to draw a flower for an art project but loves trains,
you say, okay, let's draw the most amazing detailed train in the world. And maybe that train is driving through a field of flowers. Or maybe tomorrow you calculate the train's speed. You write a story about the train. You use the high dopamine subject to carry the low dopamine task.
Okay, so we've got autonomy through choice and we've got leveraging interests. But let's get into the nitty-gritty of that moment of refusal, the task initiation problem.
The inertia problem, the just starting hurdle.
Right. Even with a choice, sometimes the kid just sits there staring into space. You mentioned the hidden complexity of starting from one of the sources. Why is starting so incredibly hard?
Because starting isn't one skill. It's a massive, rapid-fire sequence of executive functions. First, you have to stop what you're currently doing or thinking about, which is inhibition. Then, you have to access your working memory to remember the instruction. Then you have to visualize the first step, which is planning. And then you have to send the signal from your brain to your body to actually move, which is initiation.
Wow.
For a neurodivergent brain, the cognitive friction of that entire sequence is incredibly high. It's like trying to start a car in the Arctic with cold oil.
The source used the term productive procrastination, which I have to say I definitely relate to.
We all do it. You have a big report to write, so you suddenly decide it's the perfect time to clean your entire office.
Or sharpen every pencil you own.
Exactly. For a child, it looks like stalling, but it's actually their brain desperately searching for small dopamine hits. It's trying to complete tiny, easy tasks to build up enough chemical fuel to finally tackle the big, scary, low dopamine task.
So how do we hack that process? How do we help them generate that fuel without wasting 20 minutes sharpening pencils?
We use a strategy called behavioral momentum. This comes from the applied behavior analysis literature, but you don't need to be a therapist to use it. Think of it like basic physics. Static friction, the force needed to get a stationary object to start moving, is much higher than kinetic friction, which is the force needed to keep a moving object moving.
So we need to get the kid moving before we ask them to do the hard work.
Precisely. And we do it by using a quick sequence of high probability requests.
Which are?
Things the child is 99% likely to do without any resistance. They should be simple, physical, fast actions that feel like a game.
Okay, give me a script. I'm the 6-year-old kid. I'm sitting at my desk, looking glazed over at this worksheet.
Okay. I walk up to you, smiling, with light energy. I don't say a word about the math. I get down to your level and I say, hey, touch your nose.
Touch his nose.
Awesome. Give me a high five.
High fives.
Cool. Now clap your hands 2 times.
Claps twice.
Yes. Now pick up your pencil.
Picks up pencil.
And you're in. The engine has started.
Okay, it's weird. It felt strangely compelling. Why did that work on my brain just now?
Because for the last 5 seconds, your brain got into a rapid rhythm of yes. Command, action, success, tiny dopamine squirt. Command, action, success, dopamine. By the time I slipped in the low probability request, pick up the pencil, your brain was already in go mode. It was on a roll. You had momentum.
It's like jump-starting the car while it's already rolling down a small hill.
That is the perfect analogy. And notice how it's playful. It completely changes the energy from a heavy, dreaded academic demand to a quick, fun game.
I can hear a skeptical parent, though, saying, if I have to do that every single time, I think I'm crazy. Or just, it takes too much energy for me.
And that's fair. It does take energy from the adult. You are acting as the external starter motor for the Ferrari. But what's the alternative? 20 minutes of nagging, threatening, and conflict, which takes way, way more energy and actively damages the relationship. This whole sequence takes 10 seconds.
Valid point. What about the other strategies for initiation? The try for 5 strategy.
This one attacks the mountain perception. To a child, a full worksheet looks like climbing Mount Everest. They can't even imagine reaching the top, so they freeze at the bottom. Try for 5 shrinks the mountain to a molehill.
Just do it for 5 minutes.
For a 6-year-old, even 5 minutes can feel like an eternity. I'd go smaller. Just do 2 problems, or just write the first letter of your name. You lower the barrier to entry until it's so ridiculously low they almost can't say no.
And once they start,
the kinetic friction takes over. Usually they do more than 2. But, and this is critical, you have to be willing to honor the deal. If they do 2 problems and say, I'm done, you have to say, great job doing 2 problems, and let them stop.
You build trust that you aren't tricking them.
You build trust. Then there's Easy XP. I love this one. It's pure gamification. You tell the child, okay, you're a video game character. Before we fight the boss, we need to get some Easy XP experience points. Scan the whole worksheet. Circle the 2 easiest problems you can find. Let's do those first to level up.
It's the same logic. Build competence and momentum immediately, but it uses their language.
It speaks their language. It frames the task as a challenge to be won, not a chore to be endured.
Okay, let's move to the boss level for real now. Circle time.
The nemesis.
The listener specifically called out group singing and structured games. Why is this one environment such a consistent disaster zone for these kids?
Because it is the perfect storm of sensory, motor, and social demands all happening simultaneously. Think about everything we are asking a 6-year-old to do in that moment.
Break it down.
Okay, 1. Motor demands. We ask them to sit crisscross applesauce on the floor. That requires huge core strength, balance, and proprioceptive awareness. If a child has low muscle tone, which is very common in autism and ADHD, they're using 100% of their brain power just to keep their body from tipping over.
So they have no bandwidth left for learning.
None. 2. Sensory demands. You have 20 other kids in a small space, breathing, wiggling, whispering. The fluorescent lights are buzzing overhead. The teacher is talking or singing. It can be a complete auditory and visual assault.
And 3?
3, social demands. You have to look at the teacher. You have to monitor what the other kids are doing. You have to perform in sync with the group. You have to wait your turn. It's an incredibly complex social dance.
So while the teacher thinks the task is simply sing the wheels on the bus, the child is actually experiencing a multi-front gladiator battle of sensory and motor regulation.
Correct. The source, Autism, Little Learners, puts it perfectly. Regulation comes before communication. If that child's nervous system is not regulated, if they are fighting to stay upright or trying to filter out overwhelming noise, they literally cannot process the lyrics to the song. The learning part of the brain is offline.
So the refusal we see, the running away, the covering their ears, it's actually survival.
It's survival. It's a distress signal. So the first thing we need to do is introduce flexible seating.
Which means we officially kill crisscross applesauce.
We kill the mandate. If the goal of circle time is participation and learning, does it really matter if their legs are crossed? No. Let that child sit on a beanbag chair. Let them lie on their stomach, which is very neurologically organizing. Let them stand at the back of the group.
The outline mentioned a layered group approach. I really like this visual. Can you explain that?
Yeah, think of the circle like an onion with different layers of participation. Layer 1, the very center, is the kids sitting on the rug, actively singing along. Layer 2 might be a child sitting at a desk 3 feet away from the circle, maybe coloring a picture, but they are still listening, they're auditorily present. Layer 3 might be a child who needs to move, so they're quietly walking the perimeter of the room.
And we count that wanderer as participating. That's a big shift for a lot of teachers.
It is, but we have to. If they are in the room, calm, and able to listen, they are participating. We have to broaden our definition of what participation looks like. Often that wanderer can repeat back every single word the teacher said. They just couldn't sit still to hear it.
That brings us to another strategy called intensive interaction. This sounded like a more in-the-moment strategy for when a child is totally opting out of the planned activity.
This is a really powerful relationship-based approach from the Circle Time for Autistic Student source. It's a radical shift in mindset. Usually the teacher leads and expects the child to follow. Intensive interaction says, for this child, in this moment, you follow the child.
Give me an example of what that looks like.
Okay, let's say the whole class is using one of those big, colorful parachutes. The planned activity is everyone go under the parachute when I lift it up. One child refuses. They climb on top of the parachute and sit down.
The standard response would be, no, Johnny, get off. We go under the parachute.
Exactly. A compliance-based response. The intensive interaction response would be for the teacher to immediately change the plan, get a smile on her face, and start singing a new song. Johnny's sitting on the parachute. We are sitting on top.
You change the game to match what the child is doing.
You validate their idea. You join them in their world. And in that moment, the child looks at you and thinks, oh, you see me. You aren't trying to control me. You are playing with me.
And that builds relatedness, the third psychological need.
It builds that safety net of relatedness. Once that child feels seen and joined, they are so much more likely to follow your lead the next time. But sometimes you have to follow them first.
Okay, so we're moving into the long game now. We've managed the crisis in the moment. We've used the momentum hacks to get started. But ultimately, we want this child to eventually do this on their own. We need to talk about the danger of prompt dependence.
This is the trap of the helpful adult. It comes from a good place, but it can be so damaging.
Can you describe what it looks like?
It's the constant stream of verbal cues. Okay, pick up your pencil now. Now write your name on the line. Good job. Now look at number 1. What does number 1 say?
We become their external executive function.
We become a human remote control. And the child learns subconsciously that they don't actually need to initiate or plan or remember the steps, because if they just wait long enough, the helpful adult will always give them the next instruction. It's a form of learned helplessness.
That's terrifying because it solves the problem in the moment, but it completely cripples them in the long term. So how do we break that cycle?
We use 2 main strategies: prompt fading and time delay.
Walk me through time delay. That sounds simple, but I imagine it's hard to do.
It is the art of the awkward silence. Let's say you give a group instruction. Everyone get out your math books. The child just sits there. Your instinct is to jump in immediately and repeat the instruction just to them. Johnny, get your book.
Right.
Instead, you wait. You stand near them, you make eye contact, and you silently count to 5. Or maybe even to 10.
That feels like an eternity in a busy classroom.
It feels awful. It feels like you're failing, but that silent space is where the magic happens. That's where the child's processing speed has a chance to catch up. Their brain is working. Wait, Everyone else is moving. What was the instruction?
Huh.
Oh, math book. Right, my math book is in my desk. Okay. If you jump in at second 3, you rob them of that entire processing cycle.
And what if you wait 10 seconds and they still haven't moved?
Then you provide the least intrusive prompt possible. You don't use your words. Maybe you just walk over and gently tap the visual schedule on their desk, which has a picture of a math book.
Why no words? What's the advantage of the visual?
Because words are transient. They're there, and then they're gone. Visuals are permanent. We want to train the child to get their cues from the environment. Oh, the visual schedule says it's math time, not from the adult's mouth. Visuals build independence. Verbal prompts build dependence.
That is a sticky note for the fridge. Visuals build independence.
Absolutely. And this whole philosophy leads to the gold standard framework for solving these standoffs. Collaborative and Proactive Solutions, or CPS. This is Dr. Ross Greene's groundbreaking work.
And this is the approach that moves us away from behavior charts and sticker charts.
Completely. Because if a child lacks the skill to start a task, a sticker chart is worse than useless. It's like offering me $1 million to dunk a basketball.
Yeah.
I desperately want the reward, but I physically lack the skill and the height to achieve it, so the chart just becomes a constant reminder of my failure.
So what do we do instead of the chart?
We become a detective and we solve the problem with the child, not to the child. The script is surprisingly simple. It has 3 steps. Step 1 is empathy. Hey, I've noticed that when it's time to start writing, things seem to get really tough.
What's up?
You're just opening a conversation.
You're opening a conversation with genuine curiosity. Step 2 is define the problem. You gather information. The child might say, my hand gets tired, or I never know what to write about, or the pencil feels scratchy, or it's too loud in here.
And step 3.
Step 3 is the invitation. I wonder if there's a way we could solve that problem together. You invite them to brainstorm solutions.
You actually ask the 6-year-old for the solution.
You would be amazed at what 6-year-olds come up with. Can I write on the big whiteboard instead? Can I wear my noise-canceling headphones? Can I tell you the story and you type it? When they generate the solution, they own it. Their autonomy score goes through the roof.
This connects directly to the Unstuck and On-Target curriculum, doesn't it? They have these prepackaged scripts for teaching flexibility, like Plan A versus Plan B. This is essential for the rigid thinker. For many of these kids, they have a very clear Plan A in their head. After this, I'm going to play with Legos. Then the teacher says, okay, time for math. That's a direct clash with their Plan A. The world ends. The meltdown begins.
So we have to teach them the language of Plan B.
And critically, we teach it when they are calm and regulated, not in the heat of the moment. We role-play it. Okay, our Plan A was to go to the park this afternoon. Oh no, look outside, it's raining. Our Plan A is ruined. We're stuck. What could Plan B be?
Plan B could be we build a fort in the living room.
Great idea. We are flexible thinkers. We can have a Plan B. You praise the flexibility itself.
So when the crisis hits in the classroom,
You have a shared language. You can say, I know your Plan A was to keep drawing that amazing train. I get it. But the schedule says it's math time now. We need a Plan B. I wonder if our Plan B could be do 2 math problems, then get 2 minutes to draw.
you're giving them a cognitive framework to handle disappointment and transitions.
Exactly. You're moving it from an emotional catastrophe to a logical puzzle to be solved.
Okay, before we wrap up, we have to touch on the foundation of all of this, which is the environment and emotional regulation. We can have all the clever scripts in the world, but if the kid is already in a state of fight or flight, nothing is going to work.
Nothing. The learning brain is completely offline. The ADHD Advantage 2.0 source really emphasizes the need for a pre-planned harmony hub or a safe place in the classroom or home.
And let's be clear, this is not a timeout corner.
It is the opposite of a timeout corner. Timeout is punitive. It says, go away because you were bad. A harmony hub is a supportive tool. It says, it looks like you need a break to feel better. Let's go here. It's a tent, a quiet corner with a beanbag, some noise-canceling headphones, a weighted blanket, a place with low sensory input and no demands.
It's a charging station for the nervous system.
It's a charging station, and we want to teach kids to use it before the explosion. I can see your engine is starting to run really hot. Let's go to the hub for a few minutes to cool down.
And that leads to the final and maybe most important piece, the relatedness buffer.
This is the most powerful tool in the entire kit. At the end of the day, a child will walk through fire for a teacher they feel genuinely connected to. They will tolerate a boring task if they feel safe and liked by the person asking.
How do you build that quickly, especially with a kid who might be pushing you away with their behavior?
You engage with their interests non-contingently. That's the key. You don't say, if you finish your math, then we can talk about elevators for 5 minutes.
That makes it a reward.
It makes it a transaction. Instead, you walk up to him at the beginning of the day and say, hey, I was thinking about you last night. I saw this really cool glass elevator at the mall, and it made me wonder what brand you think it was. You enter their world for free, with no strings attached.
You make deposits in the relationship bank account before you ever try to make a withdrawal.
That's it. You have to fill the tank.
We've covered a massive amount of ground here. We've gone from the deep biology of the Ferrari brain to the applied physics of behavioral momentum.
We've restructured the classroom with choices and flexible seating and parachutes.
And we've looked at the long game of collaborative problem solving and building independence. I want to circle all the way back to the listener's core anxiety, which was, I want my child to be autonomous.
And that is absolutely the right goal. That is the North Star. But we have to remember, autonomy is a skill that is built, not a switch that is flipped. You build it by scaffolding success. You act as the jumpstart until they learn, through thousands of successful repetitions, how to turn the key themselves.
And that final provocative thought from the ADHD Advantage source, can you revisit that for us? Feels like the perfect summary.
It's a question that, when I first heard it, it changed my entire practice. We, as adults, almost always ask, how can I get my child to do this task?
Which is a compliance question. It puts all the responsibility on the child.
Exactly. The better question, the more effective question is, how can I change this task so my child wants to do it?
That shifts the burden of creativity from the struggling child to the capable adult and the environment.
It does. And one last thing for that listener. That refusal, that stubbornness, that wall that goes up. I know it is frustrating and exhausting right now, but that behavior is actually the seed of powerful self-advocacy.
How so? That's a surprising take.
Your child is communicating in the only way they know how right now. This environment does not work for me. This demand is too high. They are setting a boundary. Yes, right now it's coming out as a meltdown or a refusal. But if we can help them find the words for it, I can't do this right now because it's too loud. I need my headphones. We are raising an adult who knows what they need and is not afraid to ask for it.
That is a superpower in the real world.
It's an incredible asset. The compliant child who suffers in silence is often the one we should be more worried about in the long run. The difficult child is fighting for their needs. We just need to give them better tools to fight with.
That is the perfect place to leave it. To our listener and to everyone listening, you are not fixing a broken child. You're learning how to drive a Ferrari. It's a wild ride. It requires a different kind of skill, but it is absolutely worth it. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. Good luck with the ignition. We'll see you next time.